Hello, and welcome to another episode of Experts of the Americas. My name is Eva Lardizabal, and I'm Assistant Director at the Atlantic Council's Adrian Arsh Latin America Center, where I co-manage our work on Central America. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Carolina Baltodano, Director of Sustainability and Corporate Citizenship at Corporación Multi Inversiones, where she leads the company's work on the implementation of best industry standards and sustainable strategy. Carolina, it's so great to have you.
Thank you, Eva, for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Great, thank you. So, Corporación Multi Inversiones, or CMI, is a Guatemala-based agro-industrial multinational corporation operating in two major business sectors, food, and capital. As part of this episode, we'll explore how advancements in environmental, social, and governance, ESG, policies can drive sustainable development in Latin America and the Caribbean. ESG awareness and implementation in Latin America and the Caribbean have generally trailed behind when compared to Europe, North America, and East Asia. That said, the disruption and changes caused by the COVID-19 pandemic helped put social matters top of mind to organizations globally, including in Latin America and the Caribbean. Against this backdrop, we see an increased focus in Latin America and the Caribbean on ESG practices to help guide corporate decision-making and manage corporate risk, specifically related to how companies impact their employees and other stakeholders. In recent years, CMI has made historic commitments to drive sustainable development, including the largest investment in the company's history of $1.8 billion over 3 years, which will be used for job creation, infrastructure, and development, innovation, and social projects. Carolina, can you tell us about CMI's ESG strategy?
Yes, thank you, Eva. To understand CMI ESG strategy, you need to go back to CMI values and as a company, because if the strategy might be a new thing, but the principles behind it are not. And CMI has a set of values which are what defines us as a company and what differentiates us, and those values include responsibility, integrity, excellence, and respect. And that acronym is the word REIR, which in Spanish means to smile or to laugh. So it's a company that has always been very mindful of the well-being of citizens inside the company and outside the company. Our founder used to say that we need to come to work happy and go back home even happier, and that we always needed to be a good neighbor. So if you relate those words to our sustainability strategy, it's all about doing the things right, or doing the right thing. And our sustainability strategy is actually aiming for us to continue to be a good neighbor, which we have been doing for a while now, and to reduce our footprint, because that is what we need to do as a sustainable company. So we have created this sustainable strategy that is based on two focal points. One of our focal points is sustainable solutions, and the other focal point is sustainable operations. When we go to sustainable operations, that's where we're trying to reduce footprint, basically. We're working on our waste management, we're working on our emissions, we're working on our water consumption, we're working on nutrition, we're working on human development of the local communities around where we're at. We're working on safety of our collaborators and the communities, and we're also working on sustainable finance, since in the CMI capitals we do have that kind of business too. And here we have like very basic goals to reduce our footprint, to reduce and to do more with less. And then we go to the sustainable solutions strategy, part of this strategy, where we're trying to bring the sustainability forward or beyond CMI. And by this, what we're trying is to identify win-win solutions where we have a profitable business, but we're also bringing benefits, but being beneficial to others in the sense that we have commercial partners, or that we can install solar panels on a company, our own company, but which would be a sustainable solution for others. And that is where those are the two main focuses of our sustainability strategy.
Great. And you mentioned, the sustainable solutions and, bringing improvements to the local communities that you work in. Can you give us examples of, how CMI improves the local communities it operates in?
Yeah, there's an improvement of local communities in both of our focal points in the strategy. When we talk about sustainable operations, we try to be a very good neighbor to the communities where we operate, and that is where we have, especially in the capital group, we have very strong social development programs nearby the energy plants that we have, and that is regarding like sustainable operations, and we bring progress by aligning with different stakeholders in the region and development human development programs. When it comes to sustainable solutions, we have a long story partnership of commercial partners and clients that are sometimes very small entrepreneurs that we train, and we give them the opportunity to be our business partners, but they also have their own business. One example that I love is Casas del Pollo Rey. Casa del Pollo Rey is an initiative that is like this very small chicken venue, very local, very small. Most of them are owned by women. And what these women do is they're selling chicken to their neighbors. And we train them to be able to keep the basic management of that small business and the proper care of the chicken and how to keep it cool and everything that they need to know. And these women are making way above the minimum income of the countries where they live. We have around 800 establishments or 800 partners throughout Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And this is one great example of something that we have been doing way before this, where we put it in the nice words of sustainable solutions. But it's something that CMI has been doing for a while because we understand as a company the responsibility that the private sector has in bringing progress to a region that is constantly fighting poverty and exclusion. So we have been very conscious of that, and we have these business models where we seek for win-win solutions and win-win businesses.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, diving into the S of ESG, or the social component, how is CMI assessing progress? ESG in of itself is sometimes very hard to quantify. So can you speak to how CMI is, measuring the success of its strategy?
Yeah, well, measuring is always a challenge, and especially when you have such a diverse company, because we go from foods to energy.
Yeah.
And so we need to establish like very clearly what are our goals and what are our KPIs, and try to be able to measure and compare the data. And that is always a challenge, and that is a work in progress for us, because we have some business units that have very advanced measuring programs, but we have others that we need to keep up with them, like try to improve the way that we're understanding our impact. So that is always a challenge. But for the sustainable solutions that have been going on for a while, like Casa del Pollo Rey and some other programs like Cocreo, we do keep track of our key indicators that will tell us how many people are getting benefit from these kind of projects. And we keep track of that, and we try to communicate it as well as we can, and try to be in touch always and create relations with all of these small partners that we have all over the countries that we operate in.
That's great. And now going to the E of ESG and the environment. CMI operates in almost every country in Central America and the Dominican Republic, countries that historically are very vulnerable to the effects of climate change, hurricane season every year. Digging deeper here, how does this strategy help mitigate, if any, carbon emissions that result from CMI's operations in the country and the regions?
When it comes to emissions and to the environment, we do have very high commitments to work on the region that, as you said, has a great impact on climate change. First of all, we do have emergency plans that we need to adapt to this region, and that is when we talk about sustainable operations, we're also talking safety. So we try to be as safe as we can regarding our people and the communities that we work. So safety is plays a very important role on our strategy. We also are attacking the problem by being the biggest renewable energy provider, private energy provider of the region. Our portfolio is 100% renewable and growing. So we are avoiding, in average, about 1.5 million tons of CO2 into the environment. So we're doing our part and trying to avoid emissions. But then also on the operations that are not renewable energy, we do have initiatives to try to decarbonize some of our operations, and that is a work in progress. But we're aiming, for example, to finish this year with 25% of our B4B plants being carbon neutral. We do have electricity efficiency programs in most of our operations in Costa Rica, for example, where there's a lot of incentives to be electrically efficient. And we are working, for example, on reusing the oil that we use in the restaurants and making sure that all of it, and in some of the countries that we work in, is going to make diesel fuel. And so we're trying to reduce our impact and reduce our emissions by also being efficient. Not only, it's not that we have a renewable energy unit and that's it.
Yeah.
No, we're also working on our other operations to try to be as carbon neutral as we can, or go to towards the goal of being carbon neutral. Actually, the energy unit provides services to some of the business units in foods to put solar panels. We have like 8,000 solar panels already installed in our factories on the food industry. So as part of this emission side of the operation, sustainable operations, that's where we're trying to seek to be to go towards a less having less impact into the emissions.
It's very interesting how, both the capital and the food sector kind of like feed off of each other in like a beneficial cycle in that way.
That is part of the goal. I mean, we have a lot of, and that also works as a circular economy sometimes with the waste of one of the business units might be the prime matter to create but another product, for example. So we do have a very complementary ecosystem through CMI, and that's why also sustainable solutions is so important, because that's where we're looking out of CMI, and that's where we're saying, okay, we got this going, but what else can we do with people that are around us? And we have huge supply chains, and we have a lot of business partners that have their own business but do business with CMI. So that's why sustainable solutions is also very important in our strategy. We can't be only reducing our footprint. I mean, that is important. We got to do it. We're working towards it. We have a plan to reduce our footprint, but we need to think further, and that's why we include sustainable solutions as part of our strategy.
Yeah, no, and this segues very well into my next question. You're talking a lot about sustainable solutions and thinking beyond just CMI and how you can benefit the communities beyond what CMI does. Do you think that's the differentiating factor of CMI's ESG strategy, or what would you say is kind of like that differentiating factor that puts CMI's ESG strategy apart from other multinational companies operating in the same region or other regions in Latin America?
I think the greatest differentiating thing of CMI are CMI values, and how we train every person in CMI to live through those values, and how to be an ethical corporate citizen, and how to be ethical as a company. And I think that is what differentiates us the most. But I do think that also sustainable solutions, it's like a plus that we have. It's like something that is also very different, because when you go to the region and in general, you're always listening to sustainable operations. You're always listening to footprint reduction, and that is super important. I don't want to undermine that, because that's what we need to do as a society. But when you operate in such challenging environments and contexts, where you know that every day people are fighting poverty, are fighting exclusion, it's not enough. You need to bring progress. You need to be a platform for progress. And I think that is something that CMI is doing very well. I don't think we're the only ones doing it, but I think we're working on, very committed on making a difference in the region. We have been in Central America for over 100 years, and we want to be for over 100 years more. And I think part of the success of CMI is that it's a family-owned company, and it's a family-owned company with great values that care about Central America. It's a Central American family-owned company. We're from there. This is our home. This is our house. We're not going anywhere. We might grow out of it, but we will always be there. So we really care that Central America really progress, and that there's human development, and then there's we cannot continue to be successful if we don't succeed as a region. So I think CMI is very well aware, and that's why we also call the sustainable solutions win-win, because it's not only that we're giving, we're also winning. We're winning when people progress, but we're also doing business with people. So that's why we're very transparent in saying, look, this is business. After all, we need to be profitable, but we're trying to do it and bring others on board. And I think that's key to our sustainable strategy.
No, absolutely. And prosperity for the people is prosperity for the region and prosperity for, the entire Western Hemisphere as well.
Hopefully.
And to wrap up, you mentioned that CMI has been around for 100 years and, they've crafted, social solutions like ever since before you came up with an ESG strategy. What would be your message to other companies operating in Latin America? What are some lessons learned and best practices that you've learned along the way that you can help convey to other companies that want to start crafting their ESG?
I think one of the key points that have made very successful most of our sustainable solution with progressive businesses, which is what we call all of these franchises and different levels of sophistication. But for example, Casa del Pollo or the program Cocreo también, where we train bakers that sell their bread or their products, is education. Because one of the key points for these businesses to be successful is to be able to manage the business. Because sometimes some of our partners, they might not have finished school, or they might not have a very sophisticated education. I mean, they don't. Sometimes they need help with the basics of being accountable for their business or the accounting process. So education, I think, is key, and we have done a great job, on reaching out to people. And when they come on board and they try to be partners with us, we give them the information they need to have to be successful. And I think that is a key point to being able, for example, the owners of Casa de Pollo Rey, to be able to manage their business, know what they're doing, and be profitable. So I think education at the end is, I would say that's the most important thing, and what has been key to the success of this progress that we're bringing to commercial partners.
Well, Carolina, with that, thank you so much for joining us today for this latest episode of Experts of the Americas, and thank you to everyone tuning in online. See you next time.
Thank you, Eva, for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you, same.